today what I hope ends up being a simple BIOS upgrade and an IPMI update. So let me explain and back up a little bit here. The IPMI interface, if you're not familiar with Supermicro, is what runs the GUI that's used for management, right? So this UI you should be familiar with. You log in, default username is admin, and you can do stuff, right? Now today I'm going to cover what we're going to move up from 3.58 to 3.68 for the IPMI, and BIOS we're going to move from 1.3 to 2.0. Okay, so it's a pretty big move. The order is not particularly important, but just point out too that the dates here, the IPMI came out a few months ago. This only showed up a few days ago in early August, but the actual file name that you download, the properties of it and the release notes indicate it's actually June 13th. So it's been out for a little while somewhere, but not really published. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to get this going. Now the methodology for actually doing the upgrade, I get into that with a video and procedure. There's a way to do it with boot ISO files that you turn a USB key into bootable media and you boot that way. I'm going to actually do something which I find to be a bit more graceful, and that is I can have the machine shut down and it can be powered off, right? So we don't need the machine on. We can do it all through IPMI. And what I want to mention here is that you can actually get a license file, I think it was like $10 or something, and avoid the clumsiness of having to boot off of boot media. So I'm going to tweak this article a bit, but I'm going to go right for the easy approach, and that is under maintenance. We have a BIOS update area. If you don't see this menu, you have a bit of software to download or to purchase and wait for a license key from a place called like Wired Zone or authorized Supermicro reseller, where a small amount of dollars gets you the ability to update this machine for the life of the machine. Why am I mentioning that? Well, okay, I'm going to show you something. The release notes. Look how many times they've gone through this. 2.0, 1.3, so it's 7 upgrades, okay? So making a USB key each time and going physically up to the machine rebooting, it's kind of clumsy. So I think it was well worth my $10 to be able to do this potentially even remotely, although in my case it's right here in my home's 1 gig network. Okay, so enough of that. Let's move forward with the actual procedure. So yes, article will talk about, and previous videos actually talk a little bit about how do you get it to show this BIOS update mode screen. And again, you enter a license key that you bought for, I think it was $10. Okay, then choosing the BIOS file. Okay. Perhaps I should download it. So if we're in a mini ITX or flex ATX, so I'm on this one, the SYS bundle, SYS 5028D, a Tinkertry Wired Zone bundle. This is the mini tower. Okay, so if I go to this list, we can see the X10 SDV motherboards right here, this whole section. But notice how there's a difference between this and this file. So to reduce any confusion, I want you to be darn sure you use the right file, and that's why I have this link, where if I click accept and download, I am now sure that I've got the right file. It's tiny, so now I can extract it. And let's see if there's anything interesting in a README. Generally, there isn't. Basically just tells you mainline parameters and so forth. So if I do open with Notepad, that doesn't tell me too much. That's if you have a boot floppy, right? So what I really need is just this file. Okay. So if I hit Windows plus R, get the run dialog going, hit backspace to remove whatever's there, drag the file there. There you go. Put that whole thing on the clipboard. I now am pointing to the exact file I need. We may or may not use that a little later, but right here is what we're talking about. Choose the file, right? So I can poke my way around the file system, or I can make darn sure I get the right one by just simply clicking Choose File and Open. Okay, so there it is. DVF8. Again, being super careful here, it differs by only one digit. And right there, DVF8 rather than DVT8. Okay, so everything's looking great. I should probably remove that window. All right, update or upload BIOS. So it's now uploading the BIOS to a machine that's powered off. I actually kind of forgot to show you that it's powered off, but on the IPMI main screen, the system screen, yeah, the machine's not even on. All right, and right now is when the bits are flying over the Ethernet, and there's really not a whole lot to send. Okay, I think the network is already settled down. And you'll see it, okay, it said it may take a while. Sure didn't take very long. All right, there's the old, and there's the new. Now I know I'm hopping around here. I should probably do side by side to keep your head from spinning as I keep popping up different windows. So remember I told you I've got release notes? Let's check them out. Okay, assets, IPMI. So they've added some features, right? Is there anything about you can't go back or you must reset all settings to default? Not really. In the past, I've been told by support to turn off this checkbox. Here's the thing. Even if I leave it on, it doesn't seem to matter. We're still going to lose our settings. And that's okay. I have fully documented how my BIOS is set up. So I'm actually going to kind of just do this in the mode that most people would do because they don't, find my articles or read videos or even open up the manual. And Supermicro doesn't really give guidance on this. So I'm going to leave preserve SM BIOS setting on. That's going to leave my BIOS in the UEFI mode that Wired Zone handily shipped it to me in. Okay, so I'm going to do start upgrade. And now we just kind of wait. Okay, now one thing I'm not going to deviate from is removing power from the machine. All right, several different times I've heard from Supermicro, yeah, good idea to remove power from the machine. And yes, I have a way to do that. I have a IP-based outlet from Ubiquiti. It's like an $80 power strip with 8 ports, individually addressable, and I can power off each port and back on at will. Most people don't have that, right? So here's the machine we're working on. It's burning 11 watts because it's only IPMI is booted. The machine's not actually powered up. And yes, I can toggle power afterward. Do I need to is the question. Well, this video is kind of an experimental video. It's me doing a bit of lab testing to see how does this go if you don't follow the directions perfectly that Supermicro might provide you should you open a trouble ticket and ask them, hey, how do I do the BIOS upgrade? Since there's hundreds of people out there with the same exact server called a bundle shipped from Wired Zone, I want to make darn sure that it goes well, even if people don't follow some set of directions and they kind of just do a next, easy install like I'm doing here. So it's important for me to learn how it goes. The machine boots and seems to act fine. All right, cool. But if not, well, then I'll know better what I need to do next time, right? So when I document on my site and write an article, it's based on actual testing and experimentation. And that's what I'm doing here. It also looks like, as I'm busy gabbing away here, it's actually going to be finished pretty soon. So it only takes about 2-3 minutes. I have not stopped the clock or edited the video in any way during this actual upgrade process where the firmware is actually being flashed onto the system. Now, another question that came up is, hey, this is a BIOS upgrade, a point release from 1 point something to 2 point something. So this might be a more major release than all the other ones that we've had over the past 2-3 years of Xeon D being out. That's a good question. I don't know. This particular Xeon D 1541 that we're flashing now has been out about 2.5 years. The original Xeon D 1540 came out 3 years ago. It's now 2018, so it came out in 2015. All right, so when it's done, it'll be interesting. If it doesn't prompt me to do anything like, hey, power off the machine, well, like I said, I'm not gonna. Partly because I want to experiment, but partly because people use lights out data centers or they do this remotely. You don't really want to require the user to have to yank out a power cord to de-energize the motherboard if you can help it. It's better, I would say, if you can just do it remotely over the web interface and just point to the file and click OK and accept all other defaults. So even though Supermicro might recommend something different from what happened here, honestly, if that's really the recommendation, well, then that should be the default checkboxes, right? So we'll see what happens. I'll know when this system boots up if I'm happy with the BIOS configuration, because I'll quickly see, oh, is it in UEFI mode, or if it's back at dual mode, legacy and UEFI. That'll be my clear indicator, along with numlock and some other stuff I changed in my BIOS. So we're in the home stretch. I'm going to bring that screen up on the right, and on here I'm going to go ahead and let's see, recommended settings. So we have the BIOS settings, right? Video and screenshots and all that stuff, so I'll be able to see any BIOS changes. Over on the right, it finished with the BIOS update. Now, I think I may have hit enter before moving my mouse over the left screen, so I think I cleared the OK screen. Something about, I'm done. So it looks like I'm probably out of maintenance mode now. If I go back to system screen, do I see the new BIOS version? I do not. Now, you have to power on generally to see that, and I'm going to go ahead and use the Java-based, sure, I guess. I could also use HTML5 interface. But the Java-based interface is a little more streamlined in its use of visual real estate. So let me just go with that. It's coming up on my other screen here. And soon we're going to have a blank video window. Okay, ready for me to power it on. Okay, so that's when your BIOS actually becomes in effect, right? If the system's off, it hasn't booted even once yet. So what's probably going to happen here is we're going to see the video, probably going to see it do its thing twice. Just need to just patiently wait it out here. All right. Anything else to say? Well, we know it takes about a minute to initialize the system. And if you have a speaker on your system, and all bundle owners do, you hear a beep. That's kind of your prompt to say, oh, this is a good time to hit the delete key or to get into your BIOS, whatever system you have. And visually it would be prompted here, but it's really handy to have the beep to get your attention if you're not looking at the screen for the full minute. And you get a little ADD and you start looking elsewhere and you lose track. Well, I find that little speaker very handy, and I wish they shipped them right with the systems by default, but they don't for whatever reason. Supermicro has a header on the motherboard for speakers, but it's attached to nothing by default, at least on this particular Supermicro server. Okay, so very soon, if I was near it, I would hear the beep, and you probably won't hear it on the microphone here. But I hit delete to run setup, and it says entering setup at the bottom left. So I got in. Now we're about to see together, did I successfully get into the new BIOS? And I can also hit refresh over here. Ta-da, BIOS version 2.0. So it worked. So it's a good sign. Next, did I... No. So I lost all my BIOS settings. It's okay. It's not that big a deal. Because like I said, I have documentation. So it's kind of, rough around the edges, I would say, kind of an unnecessary pain point. People are going to lose their settings. They're going to find that a little bit annoying, but that's the way it goes. So now this video actually has every step of the way, or I can just use words to get through to where the settings are actually done. For instance, let's look at this screen. There's the BIOS version there again as well. Okay, boot feature, and I turn off quiet boot generally. Let's see, do I have that documented? I don't. Okay, so we'll leave the Supermicro logo there at boot. But what I definitely do is turn off numlock So basically I am following along right here, right? Now, do I need to go to factory defaults here? No, because I already am apparently. It already did that for me. So I'm not too worried about that. So numlock off. I like to push and hold for 4 seconds. I want a power operation to be very deliberate. And then I actually want it to stay off. If I have a power outage or ice storm or whatever, snowstorm, I want to deliberately turn the machine back on. That's me though. All right. That's the simple stuff. Let's go to SATA. All right. This particular machine has not a lot of devices in there. Now it does have a Micron over here. So the Micron's in port 4, so let's make sure it gets flagged as solid state. Here we have another solid state device. It's actually in a enclosure. All right, so we got 2 SATA style SSDs in there. Fine, easy, escape. Next, are we doing any kind of bifurcation? The answer would be no. Well, depends on what you got, right? If you have a slot in there or a card that needs bifurcation, yes, you'd want to change that. So on this particular machine that's going to VMworld with me, it will be doing bifurcation. I'll be splitting out to multiple M.2 devices. Fine. Let's move along to bundle to item 15. I'm going to skip that. VGA is going to stay on board. And here's the important one. Go to boot mode. Change it to UEFI. And one thing that's not over here, if you're using VMware, say, there's really no need for it to try to boot from other stuff. I just want it to boot from USB first. So I'm good with that. Now I can exit and save changes. So that's probably it for me as far as BIOS upgrade, but I still have IPMI to do. So IPMI directions. I give you a procedure here where I say, hey, here's the upgrade procedure and don't preserve any of your settings. So that we're going to follow along with. You may want to gracefully shut down your machine, and let's go ahead and do that. My machine is probably going to start to show ESXi start to boot. That's a good sign. That's in UEFI mode and found the boot device and everything is happy. And at that point, when I see ESXi start to boot on the right, I'm going to just power it off. And I cruise right into IPMI update video. And you know what? I have a lot of separate videos. I'm going to do a unified approach this time. Just going to keep the camera rolling and go right into an IPMI upgrade now. So hopefully people will follow along and be encouraged to do the same. There's some risk in any of this. I need to point that out, right? You need to be prepared to be without a motherboard or call the 24-hour hotline. So all Supermicro SuperServer owners get access to 24-hour hotline. Supermicro support is good at walking you through recovering what seems like a brick motherboard and so forth. It's just pointing that out. So yeah, you're on your own for support. You're doing all this stuff at your own risk. You've heard all that before, and it's all over my articles and videos, that you really need to have a reason to go to a later BIOS and IPMI. Okay. Now there's been a lot happening with Spectre and Meltdown, so it makes it particularly interesting. This particular video did not finish inventorying the functions of the BIOS though. So if you are going to be bored by this section, by all means feel free to skip it. But before I power it off, I'm going to just take a quick swing through the BIOS, and I wish I had a second machine so I could just kind of show you left and right both, but I don't. I'm recording with the very same machine. So I'm going to have to live with just one screen on the right, whip right through it, and that'll give me the ability to scrub the video and get my own screenshot later on if something interesting happens. All right. So this is my usual part of my tinker trying, testing out, kicking the tires on anything new in my home lab, documenting it for you, making videos out of it, and making articles out of it. Okay, so the second boot, getting ready to hit the delete key. Okay, delete key worked, entering setup. Let's remove some distraction. All right. We're in the BIOS. And we're at 120 gig of RAM, 2400 for speed. That's because this is the Xeon D1541, one of the few Xeon Ds that actually negotiates the full 2400. Most of them are 2133. Okay, boot feature, we already looked at that earlier. CPU config. So again, this can be a fast video, not explaining everything. Just trying to show, hey world, here's what the new defaults look like on a fresh factory reset of BIOS 2.0. Now, we had release notes that did say something interesting out there. So I want to check those out. Advanced PCIe. Okay, so looks like probably the only thing I'm going to find is this. Not exactly clear what that is. So PCIe is where we want to be. And MMIO base right there, 56T is new. So let's go into that one. And there's our options. Most of these are just enabled, disabled. This one has a value in there. All right, I'm going to quickly whip through these in case there's a surprise submenu in any of these. Okay, I think we're done there. No surprises. Oh, let's go back to the bottom menu. No, that's it. Okay, there we can see the upgrade or something. Secure boot menu. Okay, that's my look at the system here. My USB key's still on top there. We're still in UEFI mode. We're all good. Did I make any changes? No. So I'm going to discard and exit. And there's ESXi powering up just like I suspected it would. And now, like I promised, I'm powering off the system. Screen's going to go blank. Okay, just wasn't patient enough there. And now I'm ready for IPMI. So, direct download, click accept. And I'm going to put it in that folder, which does not have the greatest name. Show in the folder. Okay, that one's a little bigger, 25 meg, excuse me. Extract it. And we're good. Now, anything interesting in the doc to read? Let's have a look. Enter update mode. Select the file. And do they show anything about the checkboxes? Uncheck before upgrade. Cool, just like my article. And then follow along, all right? So that's fine. And then the file name is in that path. So I can actually just copy this to the clipboard and that'll suffice. All right, cool. So we're going to use the procedure that I documented here to do an upgrade. That should be fine as is. Now, we probably still have this window open. Yes, we do. Go to Maintenance, Firmware Update. Minimize that. That's not doing anything. Here we are under step 4. Enter update mode. Yep. Choose a file. And I'm right in the path I need to be in. So I didn't need to navigate or anything at all. Just got to point to the 613 file. Notice it disconnected. So that IPMI session I had going, it puked. It died. Why? Because we went into this upgrade mode. So I'm going to go back to my article, make sure I got the right file. The answer is yes, DVF8. I should go ahead and document that file name. I'll need to update that article. Okay, so update the firmware, and it is unhappy. Because I did the wrong file. See? Under BIOS there. Shame on me. Go to Redfish. Redfish is the API for automation, and it's a bin file. So what you just witnessed is it keeps you out of trouble if you make a mistake. Right? So you can only point a bin file for IPMI. And then there it goes. And it's got 368 right in the file name. Much harder to go wrong on an IPMI upgrade rather than BIOS upgrade, like you just saw me almost do. Notice at the bottom left, you can see status. I'm going to just move the mouse away and do nothing and let it finish. So it already moved the whole file there. And without doing anything, it should just automatically go to the login page is what it's telling me. So now we just simply wait for it to finish. No, that's right. There's a second phase here where we get to uncheck everything. All right. So it's telling me I really need to lose all my configuration stuff, including like alerting upon reboot and stuff that I have. Kind of annoying. But remember, not just me telling you, they're telling us to turn that off. Very important for the firmware to work properly. Kind of strange, right? It'd be nice if they didn't make you lose all your settings. So if you care about your settings, well, there is a way to save your configuration off. Okay, just point that out. You can back it up, you can restore it and all that. But I'm going to turn it off just like it said. Now uncheck both boxes. Does this have me uncheck both? They show the first one off. They don't talk about the second one, but they show it off. So I'm going to turn that one off as well. And I'm not even using SSL certs or any kind of sign certificates or custom certs. So I'm going to turn off all three and start the upgrade. Okay, so the first phase there was where it uploads. The second phase, now that I said obliterate all my settings and put a fresh IPMI in there with factory default settings, that's now happening, or the burning is actually happening. So I'm moving the mouse away again, and I'll probably speed up this boring segment of video as it finishes doing its thing. So the upgrade finished. It's asking me to wait for a minute. Doesn't really tell us what we're waiting for. So let's have a look at their directions here. And it will redirect to the login page automatically, supposedly. But yeah, I don't know about that. I think I am going to need to click OK right there. Click OK. System will reboot. Well, it's already been over a minute. So click OK, system will reboot after upgrade complete. It's a little weird. So if I click here, there, now it's actually doing the reboot. So it's worded a little bit funny. So nothing was going to happen staring at it. Now that I clicked OK, it's actually rebooting the system. So remember, the system was powered off. So this is kind of interesting. What state is it in right now? We can check it out. kind of the infer. It's off. So I see only the 11 watts. It's got to be off. Okay. So the machine's off, but the IPMI itself is rebooting, which is also the web server that I'm logged into. So it makes sense that I should see the login screen soon to go ahead and check things out. See if I'm actually at IPMI 368 and BIOS 2.0. We already know we're at. So my work with this machine is almost done. There's little nuances like VTD pass-through or VM direct path or whatever you want to call pass-through of various devices. Do they still act the same in VMware, for instance? There could be little things that I need to clean up, but I am getting the login screen as promised, so that's good. So far everything went smoothly. No anomalies. I actually had some problems on 358, I think it was, or in one BIOS upgrade. Had to do it twice, and little stuff. Today, no anomalies. I'm successfully at 3.68 for the firmware. A little weird. I'm not seeing BIOS version here. All right, let's power this thing on. And for remote control, let's use HTML5, see if anything's changed. Here's a drum roll moment for me. I don't have decent release, well, I have their release notes. It doesn't say. What I want to know, can I find the amount of ISOs in here? I doubt it. They would tell everyone that, I'm sure, if that showed up, since there were release notes especially. Darn. I am going to want to crank the quality of the video to high. But yeah, I am not seeing anything that gives me happiness that it'd be even easier to mount ISO. So we can still do it over network shares, and I have an article about that. And now that it's on, let's see if hitting refresh here does anything. Okay, how's server health looking? So server health and all that stuff acts a little weird as far as sensor readings until the machine's powered on for a little while. In fact, it might be entirely blank, right? Okay, so HTML5 interface is working. ESXi is going to start booting on the right. Let's see if sensor readings are up yet. Probably not. All right. What's changed in IPMI? Well, I'll admit, very little changes in all the different versions, so I haven't really gone through and been super careful about documenting every little submenu in here. But my first impression is nothing's really changed substantial, if at all. All these submenus look like the list I'm pretty familiar with. Looks like we're at defaults here. What's the clock doing? NTP is disabled. That's interesting. All right, so we'd want to get an accurate clock there again for the... anyhow, all that's kind of above and beyond the firmware upgrade, right? I got that done, and I already mentioned if you had any custom settings or whatever, or maybe syslogging, which I actually did, you don't want to turn all that stuff back on. So go through this with a fine-tooth comb. And orderly shutdown. Maybe they changed the wording of that. I'm not sure. Virtual media has not changed at all. Maintenance. Well, you got to see a fair amount of that already during this video. And miscellaneous. All right. So VMware seems to be coming up just fine on the right. Again, no anomalies so far. That's good. System screen seems a little weird that we seem to have lost the ability to see our BIOS version. That's okay. We got ESXi up. And ESXi host client has this handy dandy function of showing us everything right on the login screen. So I'm putting my browser, my ESXi host, VMware 6.5 in this case, about to be upgraded to 6.7, hopefully tonight. And once it logs in here, we should see the version of the BIOS right there. Nice. It's just a little weird that this Xeon D1541 system that upgraded to BIOS 2.0 and firmware 3.68 for IPMI doesn't show the BIOS here. So it's a little odd. So I'm going to go ahead and power cycle it. So here we're seeing a power strip that is Ethernet connected, and it shows 11 watts being burned right now. Now we shut that off. It goes to 0. And now we've de-energized the motherboard. We've unplugged power. You can't do this on Supermicro Xeon D systems. Generally, power supply that is included with the systems, the SYS models, like this 5028D-TN4T, they do not have control over the power supply like this, where you can actually power cycle everything. Okay, so I've given the motherboard power again. IPMI is coming up, and I'll need to manually power up the system once I'm able to log into IPMI. What I'll be curious about is, does anything show different here in this user interface? Now, it's going to take a little time for the machine to, the IPMI web server to come back up. So if I click on this now, it's probably going to act real weird, like connecting, stalling, right? It needs about a minute, I believe, after you plug in power to the motherboard for IPMI to be ready for you to log into the web interface. Okay, all the usual hoops you need to hop through for Chrome. New version 68 just released here in August 2018. So I'm in, and there it is. The BIOS version appeared. So it does appear wise to go ahead and unplug the motherboard at some point to get it back to normal. I noticed no other ill effects anywhere in the BIOS or IPMI other than this one screen that you just saw. So, pretty strange, right? Anyhow, I'm good now. I'm going to go ahead and power up the machine, not worry at all about it anymore. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching. Thanks for visiting Tinker Try IT at Home.